Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn how to overcome adversity to pick back versus fiction and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Hope you guys are enjoying those quick tip episodes. I highly recommend go check them out. We have a couple cool ones out there now. If you guys want to hear anything else, please reach out, Health Fitness Redefined podcast at gmail.com. Or if you'd like to be a guest on this show, always looking for new, interesting people to get on here to help support you guys. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Mike Hughes. Mike, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you today.
What's up, Anthony? Good morning to you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. I know it's bright and early for you over in California. But before we get into anything else, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the fitness industry?
Yeah, honestly, to me, this wasn't rare, but apparently this is rare. But I knew what I wanted to do since the 7th grade.
That's rare.
Really, yeah, well, there it is. Like, I knew it. I was dead set on it. The name of the profession has changed, but I knew that I wanted to move people for better wellness and vitality of life. And it all started with a Big 5 bench press in the garage with my two older brothers. I remember doing bench press for the first time in 7th grade. Walking to American history class the next day, could barely move my arms, and I was stoked. I was just amped up. And then the working out bodybuilding style, following Arnold Schwarzenegger's plan of his modern encyclopedia of bodybuilding, turned into client or athletes saying, "Hey, Hughes, write me a program." So I'd literally just copy programs from that book and give it to him. But that made me feel so good. It really did. And I realized that, wait a minute, what's the pinnacle of this profession of working out? And at the time I was like, oh, that's a physical therapist. So perfect. Boom. Everything I did, let's go physical therapy. The college I went to, the thing I did. And then started as a personal trainer in 2004, in college, kinesiology, the whole thing. And then this whole time I've kind of realized that I don't really learn very well in a row of desks, sitting down, regurgitating multiple choice answers, true, false answers about the human body, doing labs with leg extension machines and sit and read tests. Just, I'm a really good C+ student. I mean, I'm really good. I will knock out any test with a C+, hands down, crush it. But in the gym, I was different. It was a different setup. So essentially, and I don't really think this is a bad thing. I think this is a huge blessing. After not getting into physical therapy school 8 different tries, I realized that there's a whole different model out there. I had to be shown it. And I saw this one trainer in our gym, in the gym I was working at, big box gym. I've already started my group training program at that time. This is 12 years ago. And she was doing some dynamic moves. And I'm almost that's a gym fail move. That's a YouTube, that's going on the shorts. You just don't move like that around a dumbbell rack. But what I realized, it was actually functional, biomechanically sound movement progressions that anybody and everybody should actually do. And so when I found out that she was helping the local, our local power lifter clear up his SI joint after his heavy lifts, I'm what trainer knows how to mess with someone's sacroiliac joint and have great results? I want to know what she knows. And she pointed me to this fellowship. Basically, it's a bunch of black sheep physical therapists from the Midwest, middle town of nowhere, who basically said, I think that there's a better way. I think that everybody should know this information. So I found, it's called the Gray Institute, and they gave me this foundational cornerstone knowledge that even American Physical Therapy Association says, nah, that's not really correct. But it's principle-based thinking, physics, biology, behavioral sciences. And from that, I actually got that fellowship and built my company, Gymnazo, at the same time. So whatever I learned, I infused into group fitness. And we move how athletes move on a field in our facility. So it looks different. But the outcome allows us to be the physical therapist. I say that respectfully for any physical therapist listening. I have that skill set, but I still operate in a fitness environment. and it allows that process to happen. I realized that this is a literally like holy grail opportunity for trainers who want to level up. And now here we are.
Here you are.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in business for?
2010 is when Gymnazo officially started, which is really cool because it was right as the recession, quote unquote, was coming into play. And it was really like, personal trainer was relatively dying, but group training was rising. So we just kind of rode that wave, which was kind of fun, in a few sick ways, but yeah.
That's such a California answer. No.
That's true. It's true. Yeah.
So obviously, like now that you've been there, it's 13 years already. So at what point did you realize, hey, I need staff? How many years in did you start really finding people? And then how did you go find those people?
Yeah, that was a very humbling opportunity. I was a certification junkie back then. This was probably 2000 and maybe 11. Like I was just seeking any knowledge I could. I went to the TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, because I love golf. I love golf. It's like, well, let me be certified so I can train more golfers. And I think that's a load of crap. You just got to know biomechanics well enough. That was then. This is now. So I was in Minnesota at a Titleist Performance Institute, and I was talking to one of the main guys. I was like, gosh, let me know how to scale. Like, how did you start from where you are to get to the go? And it's this, happy hour kind of at the bar scenario. And he asked me, he says, Michael, are you the best trainer in your town? And I'm like, is that a trick question? I was like, I should say yes. I should have that confidence. I was like, yes, I'm the best trainer in my town. He says, good for you. Do you really believe that? I'm like, trick question. I was like, nah, I really believe that. Like, I'm going to be the best. I am the best. And he's like, all right, cool. You'll never grow your company then. I was like, what the hell? Are you really like you're a group of people? It's like, did you just slap me across the face with words? And he says, let me share something with you. If you feel you're the best, then you'll never trust anyone enough to hire them at a level to get them to the point where you can step back and do other things. And that was like, all right, I didn't really know you're going to go there, but I'm going to trust you. And from that point, I remember talking to other newer trainers in the big box gym that I was at. I'm like, hey guys, I'm looking to bring on more coaches. And it was really cool to realize that like that level of, if you have someone who follows your enjoys or likes your process, and our process was that 3-dimensional movement training, weird way of kind of going about lunges and presses and and he wanted to learn, and he was brand new, and he was wiping down equipment, but that new trainer kind of level, giving free workouts, that kind of thing. And it was really easy at that point because it was a true apprenticeship. He just followed me around, and then we started programming together. And then I remember running my first internship from the college that's locally. And we had 3 interns, and I was like, the internship was over. I'm like, do I hire one? Like, I like all 3 of them. So we went from 2 of us to 5 of us in one internship. And I just removed myself from the schedule to give them money. And I realized, like, I'm not even working anymore. And that was really kind of crazy. But that was really kind of how it happened. To me, the hiring process is that true apprenticeship that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy. But it really kind of cemented the fact that, a trainer is really someone who loves this industry so much, they'll do almost whatever it takes to make it happen. We just got to figure out how to make it feasibly profitable.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference between operating and owning. So
right.
all the big questions.
Yeah. So we've always operated through internships to hire, and we always take the pick of the litter. That's always changed through the pandemic as our internship doesn't run anymore because the college kicked us out because our views on movement were too different. So now it's word of mouth, basically. Trainers who know trainers and da-da-da-da. It's a little harder these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little harder, but I want to really use this episode as a branch for those that maybe you've been listening to the show 100 times and you're trying to gather all your knowledge, or another fitness podcast and you've been working in a gym and this is something you just want to do. You want to be a trainer, but always the biggest question is, where do I start? Where do I go to college? Do I get a cert? And I'm going to let you answer that. Where's step one?
All right. So step one is like, for my perspective, a person who got to this position where I'm at, relatively speaking, not the traditional way. Like, I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer. The first gym I ever worked in was Bally Total Fitness. It's a big conglomerate crunch fitness type. They went out of business. At least I think they did.
They're done. They're right here too.
Yeah, right on. And I got hired as a front desk person. That was my first job. Front desk. And I was like, oh, let's go into sales because they make a lot of money. And so the sales department was going to kind of lead me up. And I was like, Michael, you want to be a physical therapist? Like, how about you go be a trainer? Like, this is kind of this like revelation of thought, like, dude, start now. So I pissed off the sales manager and pivoted to the personal training department. And what Bally Total Fitness taught me is sales. That's what they really gave me. And as a trainer, I learned I got my ISSA certification, thought I was the shit because I got, And long story short, realized that, every trainer is pretty much given the same program to every single person, a few variations, and get them on the bench press, a little leg squat, maybe go off into the open space and, do some funny little band stuff. And, it was good, but it was all sales based. So from that perspective, it was really cool. Then I moved to a new town and I knew how to sell. So they weren't hiring trainers. So this is the advice that I give. Say, I literally went to the gym and said, I will work for free if you allow me to pass out business cards in your lobby. And if I can get a client, then allow us to do the profit share. And they didn't say no. They're like, all right, that sounds pretty no-brainer to me. So I literally passed out business cards in the lobby to people walking and says, hey, you want a free training session? I'm a brand new trainer in town. Then I realized that they had every new member of that gym gets 2 free sessions with a trainer. So I said, do you have a backlog, a stack of people who've already been called but haven't followed up? They said, yeah, here there's a stack of like 100 papers. So I went to a back office and just started dialing. And I got my little Palm Pilot. Remember, we didn't have iPhones back then. And I started filling up my Palm Pilot with free sessions. And the laws of numbers just start making sense. After so many free sessions, you're eventually going to get one. And that's how it started. I'm
going to stop you here.
Yeah.
I think this is this leads to my point. And that's why it's perfect you kind of mentioned this first. A lot of people get into the fitness realm, right? They have great intentions. Like you're a rare breed that just knew by 7th grade they wanted to do it. But a lot of people had something, fitness called them. They love it. They want to do it.
Yeah.
And they have absolutely no sales experience. Like dismal. Like they hear the word sales and they run in the corner and hide.
Yeah.
I will tell you, rule number 1 of being a trainer: if you don't know how to sell, you cannot be a trainer. Period. There's 2 hardest careers, and I've always said this. The hardest career is a real estate agent. Getting people to trust you to sell their home. That is a giant asset for that person. They're making you responsible for helping them out in their best interest. The unfortunate part, the thing that people put second, is their own bodies. The second biggest thing is their health. Them. Now they're putting you in charge to make sure they don't hurt you. So there has to be a level of trust, which inevitably is sales. And if you don't have that, I don't care if you have 400 certifications, you know the kinesiology book like the back of your hand, and you can recite every muscle blindfolded on one leg. Like, it doesn't matter. You cannot be a trainer. It's just never going to get anywhere without sales, because without sales is no business, period.
Yeah.
I think that's a good starting point, is learning that avenue first, or in conjunction with the fitness side of it.
Well, I think it's huge because, like you said, like most people know. In fact, I'd say 99% of people know they should take care of their human body, but 95% don't. Whatever the ratio is. So you have to convince people to do it. If they're at that point where they're in front of you, like that's a rare breed of the human being already. They got the right shoes on. They got the right clothes on. They're in the building. They're in front of you. If we can't close them, and I hate to use that word because it's a salesy word and it kind of freaks people out, but if we can't guide them, like we're a Sherpa, they got to climb Mount Everest. We're just holding their bags for them. That's all we're doing. We're just a guide. If we think that we're the hero, we've lost it. The client is the hero, and we're Robin. We're the sidekick. We have to believe that. So to me, my sales shifted from Valley Total Fitness of like literally always ask questions that they say yes to until the point where you finally say, here's $1,000 for a 10-pack in 2004, at $100 a session, I get $35, $32. The gym gets 70, whatever, like if I can do that, then I kind of tricked them. I made them rationally think it. Now, sales to me is passion through reasoning. If you can reason with them about movement discomfort versus their bodies feeling, right? Not how it looks, how that they feel, the psychological piece, they can't say no because you're guiding them to do it. So it's huge. It's really, really huge. I think most trainers have this feeling that they're not good enough because most of them aren't. Don't mean that in a bad way. They just aren't. They're still learning as they go. If I could talk to myself 10 years ago, I would say, no, you're good enough for the people that are in front of you. Be confident in that. Barry Bonds wasn't in front of me then. You're not good enough for him, at least then, but you're good enough for that mom who's in front of you. She needs guidance, so you have to believe in yourself, even if you lie to yourself. You really do. And I think that's the biggest thing is that we just feel that we're not good enough. Well, then trust that the universe will give you a person who should see you in that moment. If they buy, good that they buy. If they didn't buy, then analyze yourself on why that they didn't, and be honest. Why? I asked this one person, why didn't you buy? Feedback, right? I love feedback. And she kind of looked at me like, you're asking me for feedback on why I didn't buy? I was like, yeah, I want to get better. And she's like, you're kind of young. Okay, thanks. So I stopped shaving. Like I started like just growing my beard. I stopped shaving. It was a policy.
That's not the reason I stopped shaving, but okay.
Anyway, so I just kept getting it more and more. And then you get to the point where truly, I believe good education in this industry makes you that salesperson that doesn't have to use tactics. You can use biological physics, behavioral science, or reasoning to understand it. But most people need experience to do that. Well, what if you get education that gives you that relative experience? To me, that's where that missing link is, or at least where the business can get out of this used car salesman kind of job into and I've said this before, an engineer. Like, no, there's just logic. If you don't build a foundation around your house, it's the second story is going to tilt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't argue with engineers. We don't. We trust them. So that's how I.
No, I mean, the short, digestible version, I guess, which is kind of where exactly on the same page of this is, if that client worked with you, would they be better tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like on the right, not fixed, but better tomorrow than where they are today.
Right.
If the answer is yes, it's no longer about that used car. Like, what the heck is that car going to do for you? You're going to be happy for 3 hours and then be done with it? Like, whatever. No, like, sales, and it's a shit word for what we do, but it's legit helping people. I know if Joe Schmo knocked on my door and said, Anthony, why should I work with you? I said, because regardless, I might not fix you tomorrow, but I promise tomorrow you're going to be on a better path than you are today. Yep. And that in of itself is worth what we do. That's getting people on the right track to be healthy that they otherwise wouldn't do. And that's why I love this industry. And that's why I don't do real estate like I used to do. It's, I truly, burning passion inside of me. Like, every being, when I sit down and I'm talking to someone about signing up, I know they will be better off doing this. It is no longer a sale. It's about making people healthier, which is the number one reason why I do what I do. I want to make you better, you happier, you live longer. And like you said, it's about the client's journey, and you're just kind of guiding them along the way.
Yeah. And I think, and the consumer, regardless what industry you're in, can feel that passion. There's innate senses in all of us, whether we know it's intuition or whatever you want to call it, right? We have it in us. And I think a lot of trainers don't have the passion like you have or like I have. And they think, it's just a cool job. I love fitness. I work out myself. I've always been a good athlete. It's like, no. We're talking about you need to be a servant. If you're there to serve you and just look good naked, well, you're going to get those clients. But there's not that many of them. There's more people that are scared. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're fearful that they're just going to start wasting away. The 90% of the clientele are the people who are not that bro schmo, super deep cut off down to their hip bone type of trainer. They're just not. It's just not going to work. They'll maybe try it, but they'll just try.
And I think that's the stereotypical people that kind of just want to do fitness and think that's what their clients are going to be like. And then we have to sit there and explain that population you train about 1% of.
Right.
The 99% is Jane Doe with type 2 diabetes, a broken hip, a new knee, frozen shoulder, and is struggling to pick her kids up and wants to be able to live longer and take care of them as she ages.
Right. Yeah.
That's your typical client.
So
now you need to know anatomy, physiology.
Yeah.
You need to know type 2 diabetes. You need to know all these specialties that kind of are hidden inside these certifications. They don't teach you. So like your section on type 2 diabetes is 1 page and the book is like 1,000 pages. So you really have to know a lot more than the basic of the ISSA, NASM, ACSM kind of deal. And I'm going to leave this here to take a quick break. And then on the flip side of this, Mike, I want to get into that topic in of itself. So we're going to take a quick break for a word for our sponsor, guys, and we'll be right back. Just stay. For us, we know what it's like to feel unhealthy, depressed, and downright defeated. We want to show others there is a right way, and through fitness, you could do anything you set your mind to. Fitness can give you that motivation, confidence, energy you need to bridge that mental gap and prevent you from missing important life events. We understand it's about feeling better, living longer, and being good examples for our kids. We understand this because we live it. And for us, that's the redefined difference. Hey everybody, and welcome back. We have Mike here. So let's talk about the certification side of it. We talked about sales, which I both wholeheartedly agree. Like it's that passion about it. Now it's about what's next. Well, I go online and I research personal training certifications, and you get, I don't know, 1,000 nowadays.
There's a lot. Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, I'm looking at it. And there's 2 ways to look at this. One is what's the cheapest, which is never the best option. And then 2 would be, okay, if I don't want the cheapest option, let me ask my friend what they got, the one that is a trainer, and see. But that also isn't a good option because most of the time, and I know we're on the same page as this, a big box gym is going to hire people with different certs than a small personal training studio because they're dealing with 2 different clientele. And we really want to specialize in what we do and be the best at it, or trying to be the best at it, as opposed to just a big box, which is just gonna, can you walk? You got the job. Kind of
servicing the members for a side hustle, basically, versus just a membership.
Exactly. So where do you start? Well, you look online, you Google personal training certifications. What's next?
So that's what I did. It's funny. I talked to a trainer of mine, friend, who was working at the gym I was at, and he got ISSA. I was like, all right, cool. I'll get ISSA. And I was a guy who's in kinesiology, like bachelor's of exercise science. I could have talked to my professors. but they would have given me the same answers, literally. And then I was like, cool, you guys are the authority. You obviously know more than I do. And they technically did a lot more. But what's so challenging about my 4 years of college, bachelor's of science, and my ISSA, and all the other certifications that I've got through Tyler's Performance Institute, and they meant nothing. I don't want to say nothing. That's not true. They made very, very little to the fellowship that I got or how I operate now. It was so theoretical based. Like I memorized the Krebs cycle. That's really cool. I really I know that. I did testing on, end range of motion, power, performance on a leg press. Whoop-de-doo. Like there was so laboratory-based thinking. I got to understand the anatomy from a sagittal plane only perspective. Like I thought that was enough. And I'm realizing that even with these certifications now, they make you feel like you know what you're doing. But I love what my professor said. He says, certifications make you certifiably dangerous. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant, but I understood what he was saying. Like, I'm not that good. But they give you this false sense of confidence. But there's nothing else out on the market. There is technically, go to our website. No, but like long story short, it's like there's nothing, but you would Google search it. And like these companies are massive organizations that now, check this out, you can pay them to get your CEUs for that year versus actually going to a seminar and conference. You can now just give them money and they'll say, okay, you're good to go for another year or 3 years, whatever the case is. Like that's where the industry is. That's a true fact, by the way. That's not some made up thing. So it's like, wait a minute. So what do we do as a trainer? Like, what do we do? We have to listen to podcasts like this. Our educational system's not giving it to us, not enough. And then even as I interview more physical therapists now, even physical therapy school, coming out of physical therapy school, you ask most physical therapists, they don't know what the hell they're doing either. Because in physical therapy school, graduate school, doctor of physical therapists, they don't work on actual people. It's all to pass the state board. It's not until their residency, quote unquote, the rotations that they actually work on people. But most of those people that they go to, they don't. Those directors don't even trust. Sorry, tangent. They don't even trust those physical therapy people. So I'm realizing that I actually know more from a musculoskeletal perspective than a physical therapist coming out of $100,000 in 3 years in a different town, lifestyle debt. It's like, whoa. So where do you get this education? I really believe like we have to go back to the time of like literally the guy working in the blacksmith shop and like, I got to go hang out with that dude. The smartest trainers that I know have moved or put a period of their life with a specialist, with a trainer that knew what they were doing, and they've learned directly from them. It's the apprenticeship model. I think because we're a blue collar worker with a white collar mentality. So if you're a blue collar worker, you got to go to trade school. You got to learn from the finest. I think that's where the best education is. I wish I had like go to this school. I wish I had said go to this website, but it's mentorships is what this is coming out to. And there's people coming out making these certifications, but they're so far down the search list that it takes that inherent drive to search to make it happen.
Yeah, you learn. I think this is true for every field, but you learn more from in person watching than you do from a textbook. Period. It's the idea of studying for a test as studying for real knowledge. Yes. Where real knowledge and applicable knowledge is a lot harder to come by than trying to figure it out for a test. So a good example is I went the NASM route because I asked 100 people, and that seemed to be the closest one to what I needed to work with the population I knew I needed to work with, which I knew at that time because I had my whole story, those with injuries and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I remember taking the test, and as I'm reading it, it's like there's two ways to learn from this. There's read the book and pass the test, or there's take it and make my own course as like an applicable knowledge course and a self-study type atmosphere. And what I mean by that is, no joke, I was going and working out at a couple of the big box gyms here, studying for my NASM test, and I would be talk to myself while I was training. I'd be like, all right, if I do this, this is shoulder adduction. When I'm working shoulder adduction, I'm feeling this in this muscle, creating this range of motion. Okay, now why is this applicable to a spinal injury? And how do I feel it pulling that way? So it was more of this self-study.
Yeah.
Take the knowledge, like take the physiology, which I think is super important. You need to know physiology, but just not put it in the gym instead of just sitting at home reading a textbook and taking tests.
Yeah. I think people forget that we're still in a practice. We practice training, like medicine practice, right? Dental practice. It's called training practice. We just figured out. We know how to work out. And I think that is completely a myth. Fitness hasn't really changed since the 70s. Most people still work out for physique results, even though they don't want physique results. The biggest slap in the face in fitness was CrossFit. Truly. It's the biggest slap in the face in fitness. Even though it's a great method, it's again only for a select few who can actually put the volume onto their body, but at least they're moving not for bodybuilding, at least. And now we're in a new stage where there's more boutique businesses, personal training studios, and there are big box gyms, and we're all now specializing in bar, spin, work underneath an orange light and hope that works, work out for 45 minutes and hope that works without a warm-up or a cool down. And then the others, mom and pops, like I would like to call myself, so we're saying, wait a minute, there's a biomechanical, physiological, behavioral science aspect that we have to master, but we're still practicing. Like we're always learning. And to me, I look at the next wave of boutique fitness as those people, those trainers who can literally learn from somebody. And we're talking to two different people here that we can do this to, if you're listening, that you have to understand that it's not just how the shoulder abducts. Like I totally get what you're saying. Like I learned, like, how does that affect the scapula? How does that scapula affect the thoracic spine? How does that affect the opposite side hip? And how does that affect the same side ankle, foot? We have to understand it's a chain. It's a kinematic system. And yes, you can make that deltoid look big, but at the cost of what? There's always a consequence to human body. And a consequence is not a bad thing, but we have to understand, is it good? Is it bad? Does it fit that client's understanding? So to truly understand the human body in its movement patterns, all three dimensions, all major joints, all 800 and something muscles, like we have to understand that. But that's not good enough, because we have to understand the physiological application of that. Cardio strength, what's the elasticity model of a certain muscle, what muscle needs more lengthening, what muscle needs less or more stability. But then even that's not enough, because we have to talk to the person. It's not a machine. Whether is it a mom of three who's barely showing up? And if you raise your voice, she's in trigger mode. She's beating herself up. Or that 80-year-old client who just wants to go on a hike once in a while. Or you get that one athlete who's just like, I realize I need to invest in myself. Like we gotta be specialists of specialties, as you were alluding to.
You have to know psychology, behavioral science. You have to know physiology, kinesiology. You have to know sales. You have to know. I mean, this is why, back to my previous point.
Yeah.
Second hardest profession.
Yeah. And by the way, run a business on it and create a profession on it that you can take vacations and raise a family and not burn out. That has not been solved yet.
Nope, it has not.
Yeah.
We're working on that one.
We are.
Just to kind of get like a more direct answer out of this question, right? Which was, where do you start? I mean, I do 100% agree. Apprenticeship, go for it, right? That's always going to be your baseline. But I am going to add something to this. Just because we're not there yet societally, it's important still to get that cert, just because if you're planning on getting out to certain populations. And I mean, look at NASM, who's done some millions into, like, if the trainer doesn't have a NASM cert, don't talk to them. So now it just makes sales that much harder. So there needs to be a sense of, I think right now it's an unfortunate side effect, I think is the better way of putting it, that you need a cert just because it appeases to certain populations of growing a business. And it does give you a good baseline if you have absolutely no knowledge of anatomy or physiology. So I would personally say, and I want you to rebuttal me on this because like I said, I love feedback, is there's only a couple that require outside tests. And what I mean by that is not unlike some where you can copy your answers from your friend and send them in and pass your cert. They put you in a room where like pilots take tests. They have cameras watching you. You got to empty your pockets beforehand and you have an hour to pass. Good luck. Like at least it creates that you need to know something and you're not sitting there cheating. So there are a few that I do recommend through there. I mean, NASM, ACSM, CSCS, I think are good baselines of where you really want to start. And if you ever rebuttal, go for it.
I appreciate the opportunity. I do not disagree with you, but I would not recommend what you said. Not because it's you, because of I believe that the industry has been so misled. And they started with pure intentions. I know a guy, I'm a friend of a guy who started NASM. ACSM, And to know where he is as a practitioner, which I fully follow his methodologies, to now where it is now, I don't recommend people go that direction. If you need to get a job at a certain gym because they require that, then you do that. You spend the $500, you open the book, you pass the written test, you do what you got to do. I get it. Like sometimes we have to play the game to get there. But I would rather, I'm not certified by any of those bodies. I'm not current on any of those. I can care less. The trainers that come in here aren't either. Zero. And this is, we haven't found anything unless you pay $15,000, which I got my fellowship from, which is, I don't recommend from the beginning. We created our own certification, which I really in the beginning was so disgusted of because like, gosh, I'm just playing into the system. It's truly, like I really battled myself with that. I was like, well, if I believe it's better, then okay, keep on going with it. And I just kept playing the game. So we created our own mentorship certification that I believe will transform a trainer's understanding of the human body and the psychology and the physics and the application. To pass it, you have to virtually train our clients in real time. Write the program. Like you have to apply it. You have to videotape yourself in real time and apply it. And if you don't do those things, then you don't pass. It's like we train people in real life. If we move, writing this down as an answer is BS. It's not bad. It's short-sighted. You have to move. You have to communicate. If you can't communicate your knowledge is dead in this industry. So I really believe that. And I'm not saying that we have the best certification, but I think it's freaking really, really good because it forces the athlete to become a coach. Like we're all athletes. That's what I'm saying. Like every person is an athlete. They have to become a coach. And Michael Jordan is not the best coach. He's a good athlete, but he's a miserable coach as an example, right? So if we can't transcend that model, then I think our industry is just doomed to repeat itself over and over again. So if it's not a certification that I created, then you have to find someone that makes that happen. And they're out there. There's great programs out there that make that happen that are going to give you applicable knowledge versus theoretical knowledge.
Because I think the best one I took, it's now that it's like everything's kind of flooding back to me right now. Yeah. In college, we had a personal training course. It wasn't for credit, so it was totally voluntarily if you wanted to take it. You went through a semester of half written and then half practical. So it was every time a group X take, train clients, train each other. And then at the end of the year, at the end of the semester, it was a full semester length, we had a written test, which we had to pass. And then we had a practical test.
Beautiful.
The practical test was in the gym. Mm-hmm. You had 2 people watching you with clipboards. And then you had to take another student and go through different programs of what's this? What are you working on? What muscles are working? What type of muscle contraction is that? What's the plane of motion that's in? and run through why you went A to B to C to E. And that
The last
class,
question was beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And then the last part, which I think really made it, there was 75 people in the class. 3 of us got jobs.
Love it.
So 72
Showmanship.
people failed, took a course they got no credit for, couldn't then become trainers and work for the school, except those 3 people.
Yeah. Because
That's
knowledge is, again, limitless unless you, again, limited even in the model that I said without the showmanship, right? You have to, man, be heady. I'm a nerd. I understand I got an A+ in all my anatomy, physiology. I don't want to hire that person. I need something who's inspiring. I need someone who can connect, who can communicate. Like, it's really putting the whole, it's a profession that is very, very challenging. It's very challenging because you got to put it all together. If we were just some coder just in the back, just coding away, like making 130 grand at Google, the person doesn't have to say a word to anybody. They just got to, mental process. We got to do that same coding about the human body in all 3 planes of motion for every 800 separate joints with all the different joints in the body for 200 something bones, and the psychology piece, and do it in 1 hour that produces value every time. And whether you can screw up, don't screw up too much. Because you screw up too much, you lost trust.
Yep.
And do it for something that everyone wants, but no one really wants to do because it's hard.
Good luck.
People showing up to your gym every day and doing something that's uncomfortable by choice, and you make it enjoyable, that's a Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, by the way, and you solve 95% of the medical billing problems in this country that equals $600 billion every year, and exercise fixes 95% of it, helps 95% of it, and no one cares. Take a pill, get a surgery.
That's another topic.
I know, sorry. So we're solving that problem. So yes, you need education, right? And ISSA is not going to cut it. Start there, I get it. But the problem that I found, Anthony, is that I learned anatomy the wrong way. I learned that the adductors, those 5 muscles, adduct the hip. They don't. They decelerate abduction, the opposite. I learned that muscles should contract, but in reality, muscles actually eccentrically lengthen first. I didn't study the eccentric function of muscles. That was like, oh, that's a side thing. It's all about what they did. No, it's what they decelerate first. Pull a bow back. We got to learn how to do that. Then we learn how to shoot an arrow. So it's the load component first. And we have to learn it in all 3 planes of motion for every single muscle, for every single position, and every single movement pattern in the entire movement capacity of the human body. We have to know that. Or we don't have to memorize that. We have to be able to figure that out. Critically think in real time. And I think that's where this trainer is going to be like, that we're going to blow up the industry if we can create a level of functional anatomy understanding. Versus if we think that the hamstring flexes the knee, we're in trouble. If we memorize that the hamstring flexes the knee in real life, we're off base. Because the hamstring extends the knee in real life. But the book says it flexes the knee. And so already, if there's a people listening that like, Michael, that's what it flexes the knee. It doesn't. It extends the knee. It flexes the knee when it's laying on a table, prone. And that's how people studied anatomy from a dead person. But in reality, in gait, in movement, walking, when the hamstring fires, it straightens the knee because the foot's connected to something that doesn't move. And so automatically, like, crap, what else is misappropriated? Not wrong. I don't want to say it's wrong. Hamstring can flex the knee, but not in real life, not in upright training. So we have to relearn anatomy. We don't have to relearn physiology. I think that's pretty dialed in. And then behavioral sciences, that's a whole other piece. Trainers shouldn't train how they want to be trained. That's the golden rule, right? Treat people how you want to be treated. Bad rule.
Horrible training advice.
Yeah, you have to train people how they want to be trained. So therefore, you have to be a chameleon of your population. And if you're not, you'll limit your clientele. You're not going to run out of business, but you will only get U's, type A's, inverted, introverted, whatever the case is, geeky, not geeky, totally talkative. There's different personality types. So I don't think trainers I didn't know that. I didn't know that the muscles actually work differently when you're standing upright than they actually do from my anatomy book. So I had to relearn that, and it was shitty. Sorry to say that, but it was tough. So we're training people not how they actually act outside of the gym. We're creating a pseudo positive environment in our facility. So when they go out and they get a little tweak or injury, they're shit like, why didn't my training work? It's because we're leaving gaps. We're not killing, we're helping people. What you said is beautiful. You're going to be better tomorrow than you were today. But at what point does that 1,000th clean and jerk with 135 pounds destroy the shoulder? Or that sit up now actually start to displace that disc at L4, L5 junction? Or that cardiovascular workout you crushed start to actually over tighten the hip flexor? And we don't train that. We don't train the opposite of that. And that's where I think trainers fall into that educational gap, is they don't know that the consequences of their training, and they're not solving for those consequences. And every trainer is guilty of it. I'm included. So I continue to reinvest in what am I doing and what's the outcome of what I'm doing in 2 weeks, in 2 years. And that's where ISSA and NASM don't even mention that process. But they can't, because it has to be for $500 and easily passable in 6 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months. When in reality, we're talking about 5 years. I mean, we're talking about a doctorate degree of education.
Yeah, like I've always used as an example, and I think this is a good block. Out of a 1 to 10, 10 being everything that there is to know about how to train somebody, I say the average fitness goer, non-trainer, knows about 1.2. I would say the average trainer knows about 2.5, give or take. I would say the people that have been in it for a decade, like myself, I know about 4 to 10, I think is fair. But I want you to realize I didn't even get to 5. And I would say maybe the elite of us, like the ones that, like maybe you're above me, maybe you're at like a 5 or a 6. I just don't think we're there, because the biggest thing is I don't think it's been discovered yet.
No, I agree with you.
I don't even think that this shit, like those 4 points are impossible, because no one's figured it out, because we're too new of an industry. So
we
have
are young
that understanding.
Right on. Yeah, fucking love it. Love it. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know. Again, fitness only started in the 70s. Physical therapy only started post-World War II. And we've been training this. Check this out. No joke. This is true. Really, really, really true. The physical therapy bar exam to become licensed from the APTA in the past 30 to 40 years, I forget that number, but it's those 2 numbers, they've only changed about 4 questions. Are you kidding me? You're saying that we haven't learned about the human body and its movement capacity in greater sense, but from a biomechanical structural standpoint, in 30 to 40 years to change how we train somebody? Last time I checked, this iPhone 10 I have in my pocket is old school. Old school. So that makes it our training and conditioning knowledge is like an iPhone 3. But we're searching for the next iPhone 15. We're searching. It's our industry is so technologigally disadvanced. We're so back there that technology is coming up, but we're not. We are. Excuse me. I'm going to give us a little credit, But the money makers, they don't care. Don't change because it costs money to change. Don't say what you did is bad, because all those 4,000 people that bought your certification now are disenfranchised, that they bought and wasted their money. So people are in a lock. If it's surrounded by money and that's your primary driver, it's tough to change in this industry.
Couldn't agree more.
The Gary Cook. I like that guy. I've studied under him a lot. He created a movement assessment. What's it called? It's the most popular movement assessment in the industry.
I'm having the same mind fart. So I know exactly. I've seen it happen. I've had it done with me before. It's with the bar. You put it behind. You're doing.
Yeah. I want to say like MSS or something like that. That's not right. But anyways, long story short, behind closed doors, he knows that's not a good assessment. He knows that, but it makes a lot of money. So it's good enough. It's good enough. And it's like, wait a minute. I think we got to break free of this. Like, there's a revolution happening in this industry, and this podcast is part of it. Like, we got to break down the walls. We got to make a new system. And there's nothing wrong with that. How many times has Apple broken the system? How many times has Tesla broken the car industry? How many times has you look at all these different these industries of like, we're changing how we do things, but it's profitable and there's VC capital behind it, and it's on the S&P 500, and the news is talking about. No one talks about fitness. No one cares. But we care about cancer. We care about diabetes. We care about the medical system and insurance. We are the defense line el numero uno. We are actually healthcare, where everyone's putting billions and billions into sick care. It's really not that hard to think about it.
That's why our slogan is "Fitness is Medicine."
Nice. It is. It is. But the hard part is when we say that, and then someone goes to just an ISSA certified trainer and they break themselves, there's disenfranchised, there's distrust. That's the hard part. It's like,
yeah, it's convincing people to retrust you after they do something, go somewhere that's like, well, I just lost all trust. Like when you followed an Instagram model.
Oh boy.
Like you didn't realize, like, I don't care how many glute bridges you do, you can't get a butt like that. It's genetics and it's steroids. I mean, unless you're going to start doing both, like changing your genetics and start injecting your butt a little bit. Like, I think the funniest thing was last year, one of them had their butt muscle exploded because he put too much steroids into it. And she's like, whoops. And she made millions off of selling fitness programs.
Man, there are plastic surgeons out there. I just watched this on Netflix. It's called Explained. Really cool. Vox. It's a YouTube channel that built it. That there are actually Instagram type of choices for plastic surgeons for people to look a certain way. They're building an Instagram fitness model, but fat injections. You take it from the hips, put it in the seriously. So people look a certain way. That's happening, and that's what the average consumer thinks is fitness. And we're like, man, we have a battle, but we have a battle in front of us. But the cool thing is, with every big opportunity is great reward. And that's how I look at it. Like, to the day I die, I'm going to toot this horn. The horn tune's going to change because I'm going to learn more. I'm going to change. I may say, "Ooh, that wasn't right anymore." I'm fine with that. But there's going to be a day where getting 6 figures as a trainer at this level is commonplace. Because you solve the problems that deserve that amount of money.
Couldn't agree more. And Mike, I'm going to just start wrapping this up. So instead of asking the summarize this episode in 1 or 2 sentences, I'm going to give you a harder question. I'm sorry. In a couple of words. So I'm talking like a maximum of, let's say, a sentence.
Okay. Give
us step 1, 2, 3, and maybe even step 4 of where I'm starting to where I'm ending up with a 6-figure personal training job. But keep it very, like, 1 sentence max.
Got it. Okay. Step 1, hire a coach. And if you failed at one, hire another one. Step 2, if that coach tells you what to think versus how to think, fire him. Step 3, if that coach tells you how to think versus what to think, keep paying them more money. Redo over and over again. Keep on going.
Love it. And then the second question, how can people find you, get a hold of you, and check out your course? Give it away.
Gymnazo EDU is the website. MDMC, Multidimensional Movement Coach, is the mentorship. I'm on Instagram as 3D_athlete, but Gymnazo edu is the website to go to. We have a YouTube channel. We have a podcast. We are open sourcing as much as we possibly can to share this knowledge that we've created and we've understood, let me say that better, to as many coaches who want to level up as possible.
I love it. And thank you for coming on. And thank you guys for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.